The recycling facility on Refuge Station Kepler 7 smelled like burning metal and old chemicals. Velara pushed another container of waste into the processor, her silver skin covered in a thin layer of dust. The patterns on her arms that should have glowed softly barely gave off any light now. 2 years of working in this place had dulled more than just her markings. She glanced at the clock on the wall. 15 more minutes until her shift ended. Then she could pick up Lyra from the station's daycare center. Her daughter would be waiting by the window like always, watching for her mother with those big violet eyes. A human worker passed by without looking at her. Velara was used to that. Most people on the station avoided her. The other Velkari refugees treated her even worse. They whispered when she walked past. Damaged goods, they called her. A widow with a broken child and no family to support her. In their culture, she was worthless. The machine beeped and Velara moved to the next container. Her back ached from standing all day. The pay was terrible, but it was the only job she could get. No one wanted to hire a Velkari female with no references and no mate to vouch for her. When her shift finally ended, Velara cleaned her hands and face as best as she could. The reflection in the metal panel showed a tired face she barely recognized. Before the war, before everything fell apart, she had been different. Happy even. That felt like another lifetime. The daycare center was on level 3. Velara took the stairs instead of the lift to save credits. Lyra was indeed by the window, her small face lighting up when she saw her mother. The little girl ran toward her, but her left arm hung uselessly at her side. A piece of falling debris during an evacuation had damaged the nerves. The Velkari doctor said it was not worth fixing. Mama! Lyra crashed into Velara's legs with her good arm wrapped tight. Hello, little star, Velara said softly, running her hand through Lyra's white hair. Were you good today? Lyra nodded enthusiastically. I drew a picture. Want to see? The human caregiver, an older woman named Mrs. Patterson, smiled warmly at them. She was one of the few people who treated Velara with kindness. She was wonderful today, very creative. Velara thanked her and they walked back to their quarters. The station was crowded as always. Humans, Velkari, and a dozen other species moved through the corridors. Most barely glanced at the mother and daughter. Their living space was small, just 2 rooms in the refugee section. Velara had tried to make it comfortable for Lyra. Paper drawings covered one wall. A few worn toys sat in the corner, most of them fixed multiple times. The furniture was old station surplus, but it was theirs. Lyra showed her mother the drawing while Velara prepared their dinner. The rations were bland but nutritious. As they ate, Lyra talked about her day, about the other children, about a story Mrs. Patterson had read to them. After dinner, Velara helped Lyra with her bath and put her to bed. The little girl's eyes were already closing as her mother sang an old Velkari lullaby. When Lyra finally slept, Velara sat in the main room and stared at the wall. This was her life now. Work, care for Lyra, sleep and repeat. She tried not to think about the future. In 3 months, her refugee status would be reviewed. Without a sponsor or a family unit, they might be sent back to Velkari space, back to a world that would take Lyra away from her and put her daughter in an institution. Velara would not let that happen. She would find a way. She had to. A sudden beeping sound made her jump. The temperature in the room had dropped noticeably. Velara checked the environmental controls, but she did not understand human technology well enough to fix it. She increased the heat setting, but nothing changed. She wrapped Lyra in extra blankets and put on more layers herself. They would have to survive the night like this. In the morning, she would report it to maintenance. They would come eventually, maybe in a few days if she was lucky. But the temperature kept dropping. By midnight, Velara could see her breath in the air. This was dangerous. Lyra could get sick. She had to do something. Velara left their quarters and found the emergency call panel in the hallway. She pressed it, hoping someone would respond quickly. A voice came through almost immediately. Maintenance. What is your emergency? My quarters, the life support is failing, Velara said, her accent thick. My daughter is here. It is very cold. What is your location? She gave him the number. The voice said someone would come soon. Velara went back inside and held Lyra close, trying to keep her daughter warm with her own body heat. 20 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. Velara opened it to find a human man holding a toolkit. He was maybe in his 30s with dark hair and a practical jumpsuit. His name tag read Tae-sun. You called about the life support? He asked. Vilara nodded and led him inside. He went straight to the control panel and opened it up. His hands moved quickly, checking connections and testing systems. He did not seem bothered by the cold or by having a Velkari refugee as a client. "Your main coupling is cracked," Taesun said after a few minutes. "I can patch it now, but you will need a replacement part. I will order it tomorrow." "How much?" Vilara asked quietly. She did not have extra credits. Taesun looked at her, really looked at her for the first time. Then his eyes moved to the small form sleeping under a pile of blankets. "It is a standard repair, covered by station services for refugee housing." Vilara did not know if that was true, but she was too tired and too cold to argue. She watched as Taesun worked. He was efficient but careful. When he sealed the temporary patch, warm air started flowing again almost immediately. "That should hold until the new part comes in," he said, packing up his tools. Then he paused, looking around the small quarters. He saw the sparse furniture, the makeshift toys, the drawings on the wall. His expression did not show pity exactly, but something else. "Understanding, maybe. Is your daughter okay?" he asked, nodding toward Lyra. "She is sleeping," Vilara replied. Taesun nodded. "Good. Call again if you have any problems." "Any time." He left, and Vilara locked the door behind him. The room was warming up quickly now. She checked on Lyra, who was sleeping peacefully, unaware of the crisis. As Vilara finally lay down to sleep, she thought about the human engineer. He had not looked at her with disgust or dismissed her as worthless. He had simply fixed the problem and left. It was such a small thing, but it felt significant somehow. She did not know that this chance encounter would change everything. 3 days later, Vilara saw the human engineer again. She was in the station's communal garden area with Lyra. It was one of the few free places where her daughter could play. The space had artificial sunlight and real plants, a luxury most refugees rarely enjoyed. Lyra was trying to play with a broken toy shuttle, pushing it along the ground with her good hand. Other children ran past, ignoring her. Vilara sat on a bench nearby, watching carefully. She always watched. "That is a nice shuttle," a voice said. Vilara looked up to see Taesun standing there with a small bag in his hand. He smiled at Lyra, not at Vilara, which was somehow less threatening. "It is broken," Lyra said matter-of-factly, holding up the toy. One wing was missing and the door did not close properly. "May I see?" Taesun asked. Lyra looked at her mother. Vilara hesitated, then nodded. The little girl handed over the toy. Taesun sat down on the ground right there and opened his bag. He pulled out a small tool and some spare parts. "I think we can fix this. Want to help?" Lyra's eyes went wide. She sat down next to him, watching intently as he worked. Taesun explained what he was doing in simple words. He showed her how to tighten a screw, how to snap a piece into place. When Lyra struggled with her one working hand, he adjusted his teaching without making her feel bad about it. Vilara watched this interaction with confusion. Why was this human spending time with her daughter? What did he want? After 20 minutes, the toy shuttle was repaired. Lyra laughed with delight, making it fly through the air with sound effects. Taesun stood up and brushed off his pants. "Thank you," Vilara said quietly. "You did not have to do that." "I like fixing things," Taesun replied simply. He looked at her, and again there was no judgment in his eyes. "The replacement part for your quarters came in. I can install it tonight if that works for you." "Yes, thank you." He left, and Lyra played happily with her repaired toy for the rest of the afternoon. That evening, Taesun came to their quarters and replaced the damaged part. It took him less than an hour. When he finished, Lyra showed him all her drawings, talking excitedly about each one. Taesun listened to every word, asking questions, genuinely interested. After that, Vilara started seeing him more often in the communal areas. He never pushed himself on them, but he was there. He would show Lyra simple engineering tricks or teach her human children's games. Sometimes he brought small spare parts and helped her build little structures. Vilara remained cautious. In Velkari culture, males who showed interest in widows usually wanted only one thing. They saw women in her position as easy targets. But Taesun never made inappropriate comments. He never touched her without permission. He treated Lyra with genuine kindness. One day, Vilara found the courage to ask him why. They were sitting on a bench while Lyra played nearby. Taesun had just shown her daughter how to make a simple circuit with a light. "Why do you spend time with us?" Vilara asked. "What do you want?" Taysun looked surprised by the question. He thought for a moment before answering. I do not want anything, he said. Your daughter is smart and curious. She reminds me of myself at that age, and you seem like you could use a friend. Is that okay? Velara did not know what to say. Friends. The concept felt foreign now. Other humans do not talk to us much, she said carefully. Other humans are busy with their own lives, Taysun replied. That does not mean they are bad people. They just do not see what is right in front of them sometimes. Over the following weeks, Taysun became a regular part of their routine. He would meet them after Velara's shift ended. They would spend time in the garden or the observation deck. He taught Lyra about stars and planets. He brought food sometimes, sharing meals with them. Slowly, Velara began to trust him. She told him about her past, about the war, about her husband who died in an attack. She told him about fleeing her home world, about the Velkari authorities who wanted to take Lyra away. They said her arm makes her unfit. Velara explained one evening. Lyra was sleeping on the bench with her head in her mother's lap. In our culture, imperfection is not acceptable. They wanted to put her in a facility. I could not let that happen. Taysun's expression darkened. That is cruel. That is our way, Velara said sadly. I am considered damaged too. A widow with no family with a broken child. I have no value in Velkari society. That is wrong, Taysun said firmly. You have value. Lyra has value. Any society that says otherwise is broken, not you. His words shocked her. No one had ever said something like that to her before. Taysun told her about his own childhood. His father left when he was young. His mother raised him alone, working multiple jobs. They struggled with money and social pressure. People looked down on them. My mother taught me that family is not about perfection, Taysun said. It is about showing up every day and doing your best. You do that. You are a good mother. Velara felt tears in her eyes. She had not cried in a long time. She had forced herself to be strong for Lyra. But hearing those words from someone who meant them, it broke something inside her. The turning point came during an incident in the garden. Lyra was playing when 3 young Velkari males walked past. They saw the little girl and started laughing. They spoke in their language, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Look at the damaged one said. Her arm hangs like dead meat. The mother must be desperate to keep such a defective offspring, another added. She should have let it be recycled. Lyra did not understand all the words, but she understood the tone. Her face fell. She held her left arm close to her body, ashamed. Velara stood up, her fist clenched, but what could she do? They were young males from good families. She was nobody. But Taysun was already moving. He stepped between the young Velkari and Lyra, his body language protective but not aggressive. That is enough, he said quietly. The young males looked at him with surprise and disdain. Humans were considered weak by many Velkari. These 3 clearly thought so. This does not concern you, human, the leader said. You are mocking a child. That concerns me, Taysun replied. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. You will apologize or you will leave. We do not apologize to defective now, Taysun interrupted. He was not a large man, but something in his presence made the young Velkari hesitate. A security officer, attracted by the commotion, approached. She was human and she assessed the situation quickly. Is there a problem here? She asked. The young Velkari looked at each other. They muttered something in their language and walked away quickly. They knew better than to cause trouble with station security. The officer nodded at Taysun and left. Taysun turned to Lyra, kneeling down to her level. Are you okay? Lyra nodded, but she was clearly upset. Taysun gently touched her left shoulder. Your arm does not define you, he said softly. You are smart, creative, and brave. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. Lyra hugged him with her good arm. Taysun hugged her back carefully. Velara watched this with her hand over her mouth. In Velkari culture, this would never happen. A male defending a damaged child who was not his own. It was unthinkable. But here was this human doing exactly that without hesitation. That night, after Lyra was asleep, Velara sat with Taysun in the garden. The station's artificial stars glowed above them. Thank you, she said, for what you did today. Anyone would have done it, Taysun said. No, Velara replied. No, they would not. You are different, Taysun smiled. Maybe humans are just different. Velara thought about that. Maybe they were. And maybe that was not a bad thing. 2 months passed, and Tae-sun had become a constant presence in their lives. Velara found herself looking forward to seeing him each day. Lyra asked about him constantly when he was not around. It felt dangerous to depend on someone like this, but Velara could not help it. One evening, Tae-sun arrived at their quarters with someone new. She was a human woman about his age, with short dark hair and a friendly smile. "This is Ji-won," Tae-sun introduced her. "She is my best friend and works in medical supply coordination." Ji-won shook Velara's hand warmly. "Tae-sun has told me a lot about you and Lyra. It is nice to finally meet you." Velara was not sure what to make of this. Ji-won seemed genuine, but Velara had learned to be careful. "I brought something for Lyra," Ji-won said. She held up a small bag. "May I show her?" Velara nodded, curious. Lyra came over shyly, and Ji-won knelt down to her level. "Tae-sun told me about your arm," Ji-won said gently. "I spoke with some doctors. They said it might be possible to help. Would you like to try?" From the bag, Ji-won pulled out a child-sized brace. It was lightweight and had small mechanisms built into it. "This is called a corrective brace," Ji-won explained. "It will help your arm move better. It might feel strange at first, but it could make things easier for you." Lyra looked at her mother. Velara's heart was pounding. The Velkari doctors had said there was no hope. They said the damage was permanent. They said treatment was not worth the resources. "Can we try?" Lyra asked softly. Velara nodded, not trusting her voice. Ji-won helped Lyra put on the brace. She adjusted it carefully, explaining each step. When it was secure, she activated the small motors. "Now try to lift your arm," Ji-won said. Lyra concentrated. Slowly, with the brace's help, her left arm lifted. It was only a few inches, but it moved. Lyra gasped with delight. So did Velara. "It will take time and physical therapy," Ji-won said, looking at Velara. "But there is a human pediatric specialist visiting the station next week. I can arrange for Lyra to see her. There is no charge for refugees." "Why?" Velara asked, confused. "Why are you helping us?" Ji-won smiled. "Because you need help. That is enough reason, is it not?" Velara did not understand this human logic. In Velkari culture, everything was a transaction. Help came with expectations and debts. You did not give freely, especially not to strangers. But over the next weeks, Ji-won proved she meant what she said. She arranged the appointment with the specialist. She brought exercises for Lyra to practice. She even helped Velara understand the human medical system. The specialist, Dr. Kim, was amazed that no one had treated Lyra before. "This is very fixable," she said after examining Lyra. "With the brace, physical therapy, and some exercises, she should regain 60 to 70% function. Maybe more if we are lucky." Velara almost broke down in the examination room. 2 years. 2 years of being told her daughter was beyond help. And here was a human doctor saying it could be fixed with simple treatment. Dr. Kim set up a therapy schedule. 3 times a week, Lyra would come for sessions. The station covered the cost for refugee children. As they left the medical center, Velara could not stop the tears. Ji-won put a hand on her shoulder. "It is okay to cry," Ji-won said kindly. "Sometimes happy tears need to come out too." "I do not understand you humans," Velara said, wiping her eyes. "You give so much and ask for nothing." "We do ask for something," Ji-won replied. "We ask that when you can, you help someone else. That is how community works. We all take care of each other." Velara thought about this. The Velkari community on the station did not work like that. They kept to themselves, maintaining their hierarchy and prejudices even in exile. But the humans were different. They helped refugees from any species. They did not judge based on family status or physical perfection. They measured worth differently. Lyra's progress was remarkable. Within 3 weeks, she could lift her arm above her head. Within 6 weeks, she could hold things with both hands. The girl's confidence grew with every small achievement. Other people noticed. The human caretakers at the daycare celebrated each milestone. Other refugee children saw Lyra improving and became more accepting. Even some of the Velkari started to watch with curiosity. Velara also began to change. Tae-sun convinced her to take classes in basic engineering. The station offered free education for refugees who wanted to learn new skills. Velara was nervous at first. She had not studied anything in years, but she discovered she had a natural talent for understanding how systems worked. Her instructor, a patient older man named Mr. Park, encouraged her. He said she had an excellent mind for problem solving. He suggested she focus on biotechnical integration, combining her knowledge of Velkari biology with human technology. For the first time in years, Velara felt hope. Real hope, not just survival. But not everyone was happy about these changes. One day, Velara encountered a group of older Velkari in the communal area. They surrounded her, their expression stern. "You shame us," one said. An elderly female named Kessa, who acted as an informal leader, running after humans, letting them touch your child, pretending you can be one of them. "I am not pretending anything," Velara replied quietly. "I'm just trying to give my daughter a better life. By abandoning our ways?" Another asked. "By teaching her that imperfection is acceptable?" "Lyra is not imperfect," Velara said, her voice stronger now. "She is a child who deserves a chance. She is damaged goods," Kessa said harshly. "As are you. That human who follows you around, he is either foolish or has strange tastes. Either way, it is pathetic to watch." Velara felt anger rise in her chest. Months ago, she would have lowered her head and accepted these words. But something had changed in her. "Tay's son is a better person than any of you," she said. "He sees value where you see only defects. He gives without expecting payment. That is not foolish. That is good." The group looked shocked. No low-status female spoke to them like this. "You will regret this attitude," Kessa warned, "when your status review comes and you have no Velkari sponsor. When they send you back home, you will remember this conversation." The group walked away, leaving Velara shaking but oddly proud of herself. That night, she told Tyson and Jiwan about the encounter. They were sitting in the small restaurant area of the station, sharing a meal. Lyra was practicing her exercises at the table, determined to master each one. "They are right about one thing," Velara said sadly. "My status review is in 1 month. Without a sponsor, Lyra and I will be deported back to Velkari space. Can you apply for extended refugee status?" Jiwan asked. "I tried. They said I do not qualify. I need a family unit or a permanent job. I have neither." Taysun was quiet, thinking. Velara could see his mind working through the problem like he worked through engineering challenges. "What if you did have a family unit?" he asked slowly. "I do not understand," Velara said. "What if you were married to a human citizen?" Taysun continued. "That would qualify, right?" Jiwan's eyes widened. She looked at Taysun with a mixture of surprise and understanding. Velara's heart started beating faster. I suppose it would, but I am not married to anyone." "You could be," Taysun said, looking directly at her. "If you wanted to." The table went silent. Even Lyra stopped her exercises, sensing something important was happening. "Are you—" Velara could not finish the sentence. "I am saying we could get married," Taysun said simply. "It would solve your immigration problem. You and Lyra could stay, and I care about both of you. I would be honored to be your family." Velara stared at him. Her mind was racing. This was impossible. This was crazy. This was— "You cannot be serious," she whispered. "I am completely serious," Taysun replied. "I know it is fast. I know we come from different worlds. But humans do not always follow traditional paths. We make family where we find it, and I have found it with you." Jiwan was smiling now, though she remained quiet, letting her friend speak. "But I have nothing to offer you," Velara said. "I am a widow. I am damaged. My daughter is—" "Stop," Taysun interrupted gently. "Stop using their words." "You are not damaged. You are strong. You are smart. You are a loving mother. That is everything." Velara felt tears streaming down her face. She looked at Lyra, who was watching with wide eyes. "Mama, can Taysun be my father?" Lyra asked innocently. That simple question broke through all of Velara's doubts and fears. "Yes," she said, looking back at Taysun. "Yes, he can." The next morning, Velara woke up convinced she had dreamed the entire conversation. But then she saw Taysun's message on her comm unit asking if they could meet to discuss the details. It was real. He had actually proposed marriage. She sat at her small table, drinking tea, trying to process everything. Lyra was still asleep, curled up with her repaired toy shuttle. The morning light from the artificial sun made everything look soft and gentle. Velara thought about what marriage meant in Velkari culture. It was a contract, a binding agreement to produce optimal offspring. It was about genetics, family lines, social status. Love was secondary if it mattered at all. Her first marriage had been arranged by her family. Her husband had been a good man, but they had been partners more than passionate lovers. But Tae-sun had made it clear this would be different. A human marriage, based on choice, on respect, on partnership. The idea was both terrifying and beautiful. When Lyra woke up, she immediately asked about Tae-sun. "Is he really going to be my father?" the little girl asked, her eyes bright with hope. "Maybe," Velara said carefully. "We need to talk about it more." "I want him to be," Lyra said firmly. "He is nice to me. He fixes things. And he makes you smile, Mama." Velara had not realized how much her daughter had noticed. Children saw more than adults thought they did. That afternoon, Velara met Tae-sun and Ji-won at a quiet cafe on the station. It was a neutral place where they could talk privately. "I spent the morning researching," Ji-won said, pulling up information on her datapad. "If you marry a human citizen, you and Lyra automatically get permanent residency rights. You can live and work anywhere in Terran Confederacy space." "What about the process?" Velara asked. "How does it work?" "There is paperwork, of course," Tae-sun said. "But it is straightforward. We fill out the forms, have a brief interview with the immigration office, and then a marriage ceremony." "It can be done in a few weeks," Velara repeated. It seemed so fast. "We can take more time if you need it," Tae-sun said quickly. "But your review is in 4 weeks, so we would need to at least start the process soon." Ji-won reached across the table and took Velara's hand. "I know this seems rushed, but Tae-sun would not suggest this if he did not mean it. He is the most honest person I know. When he says he cares about you, he means it." Velara looked at Tae-sun. He met her gaze steadily, his expression open and sincere. "Why do you want this?" she asked him. "Really? You could find a human woman, someone without complications, someone who fits into your life easily." Tae-sun thought for a moment before answering. "I could, but I do not want easy. I want real. These past months getting to know you and Lyra, they have been the best part of my day. Every day, when I fix things at work, I think about showing Lyra how it works. When I eat dinner alone, I wish you were there. When I see something beautiful, I want to share it with you both." He paused, then continued. "You asked what I want. I want to be part of your lives. I want to help Lyra grow up knowing she is valued. I want to see you discover all the amazing things you are capable of. I want us to be a family. Not because we have to be, but because we choose to be." Velara felt her eyes burning with tears again. "I do not know if I can be a good wife to you. I do not know how human marriages work. What if I fail? Then we figure it out together," Tae-sun said simply. "That is what marriage is. 2 people choosing each other every day and working through problems together." Ji-won squeezed Velara's hand. "For what it is worth, I think you are perfect for each other. I have known Tae-sun for 10 years. I have never seen him this happy." Velara wiped her eyes. "What will people say? Your human friends?" "They will say congratulations," Ji-won answered. "Interspecies marriages are rare, but they are not unheard of. Most humans will not care, and the ones who do care are not worth worrying about." "And the Velkari?" Velara asked, though she already knew the answer. "They will be shocked," Ji-won said honestly. "Maybe angry. But Velara, you already do not fit in with them. You already face their judgment every day. At least this way you and Lyra will be safe." That was true. Velara had nothing to lose with her own people. She was already at the bottom of their social structure. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "Just for a day or 2? "Of course," Tae-sun said. "Take all the time you need." But Velara already knew what her answer would be. She had known from the moment Lyra asked if Tae-sun could be her father. She was just scared to say yes, scared to accept happiness after so much pain. That night, Velara could not sleep. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened, about the war, about losing her husband, about fleeing her home world, about the 2 years of struggling on the station, working terrible jobs, watching her daughter suffer, and then about Tae-sun. About his kindness, his patience, his genuine care, about the way he treated Lyra with respect and love, about the way he looked at Velara herself, like she was someone worth knowing. She got up and checked on Lyra. The little girl was sleeping peacefully, her left arm in the brace even while she slept. The arm that was supposed to be beyond help. The arm that was healing because humans believed it was worth fixing. Velara made her decision. The next day, she sent Tae-sun a message. "Just 3 words, my answer is yes." He arrived at her quarters within an hour, slightly out of breath like he had run. Velara opened the door and they stood there looking at each other. Yes? He asked, wanting to be sure. Yes, she confirmed. I want to marry you. Taesun's face broke into the biggest smile she had ever seen. He pulled her into a hug, careful and respectful. Velara hugged him back, allowing herself to feel safe in someone's arms for the first time in years. Lyra came running from her room. Are we a family now? Almost, Taesun said, picking her up with one arm while keeping the other around Velara. We need to do some paperwork first, and have a ceremony, but yes, we are going to be a family. Lyra wrapped her arms around both of them as best as she could. Good, I want that. The next weeks were busy. They filled out forms, attended interviews, met with officials. The human immigration officers were professional and friendly. They asked questions to ensure the marriage was legitimate, but they seemed genuinely happy for them. The Velkari consul was a different story. Velara had to meet with him to officially register her change in status. He was an older male, traditional and formal. This is highly unusual, he said, looking at her paperwork with clear disdain. Marrying a human. A species so different from our own. I am aware, Velara replied. And he accepts your situation? Your daughter's condition? He does not see it as a condition, Velara said firmly. He sees her as a child, a person. It's not a genetic calculation. The consul made a disapproving sound. How very human. I suppose there is no point in trying to dissuade you. You have made your choice. I have, Velara agreed. As she left his office, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. That was likely the last time she would have to deal with Velkari bureaucracy. From now on, she would be under human jurisdiction. The marriage ceremony was small, held in one of the station's garden areas. Jiwon helped Velara prepare. She explained human wedding traditions and helped her find a simple but beautiful dress. In human weddings, we often include elements from both partners' cultures, Jiwon explained. Do you want to include any Velkari traditions? Velara thought about it. There was one tradition she remembered from before everything fell apart. In old Velkari weddings, before all the modern rules, partners would exchange light. Our markings would glow, and we would touch hands to share our light. It symbolized two people becoming one family. That is beautiful, Jiwon said. You should do that. On the day of the ceremony, about 20 people attended, mostly Taesun's friends and co-workers, a few humans who had befriended Velara, and surprisingly, 2 Velkari refugees, younger ones who had quietly been watching Velara's transformation with interest. Lyra was there, of course wearing a new dress and practically vibrating with excitement. The ceremony itself was simple. A human official said some words about love and commitment and partnership. Taesun and Velara exchanged vows, promising to care for each other and for Lyra. Then, at Velara's request, they performed the light exchange. Velara focused on her emotions, on her hope and happiness, and her markings began to glow softly. She had not let them glow this brightly in years. She reached out her hand and Taesun took it. The humans in the audience made soft sounds of wonder at the display. Even though Taesun could not glow in return, the gesture was understood. 2 people, 2 species choosing each other. When the official pronounced them married, everyone applauded. Lyra ran up and hugged them both. Jiwon was crying happy tears. Later, at a small reception, Velara looked around at the gathered people. These humans who celebrated differences instead of punishing them, who saw value in helping others, who believed family was a choice, not an obligation. She looked at Taesun, her husband now, talking with friends while holding Lyra's hand. For the first time since the war ended, Velara felt like she had a future worth living. The first few weeks of married life were both wonderful and strange. Taesun moved into Velara's quarters since they were designated for family units and slightly larger than his single room. They rearranged the space together, making room for all 3 of them. Velara had never lived with someone in this way. Her first marriage had been more traditional, with clear roles and expectations. But Taesun approached everything as a team. He asked her opinion on where furniture should go. He consulted her about meal planning. He split chores equally. Is this normal for humans? Velara asked one evening as they prepared dinner together. For some humans, yes, Taesun replied, chopping vegetables while she stirred a pot. Every couple is different, but I was raised by my mother alone. She taught me that housework is not women's work or men's work. It is just work that needs doing. Lyra was at the table doing homework from her classes. She looked up. My friends at daycare say their fathers do not cook. Some do not, Tae-sun said. Every family makes their own rules. That phrase stuck with Velara. Every family makes their own rules. It was such a human concept. In Velkari culture, families followed strict traditional patterns. But here they could define themselves. Of course, there were challenges. Velara sometimes woke in the night with anxiety, convinced this was all temporary, that Tae-sun would realize he made a mistake, that she was not good enough. Tae-sun noticed these moments. He would hold her hand and talk quietly until she calmed down. I am not going anywhere, he would say. We are in this together. Slowly, Velara began to believe him. Lyra's physical therapy continued to show amazing results. After 3 months, she had regained about 60% function in her left arm. She could hold things, write with both hands, and play like other children. Her confidence grew daily. The transformation in the little girl was remarkable. She laughed more. She made friends more easily. She stopped hiding her left arm behind her back. One day, Velara came to pick her up from daycare and found Lyra showing other children how her brace worked. She was demonstrating it proudly, explaining the mechanisms like a tiny engineer. Mrs. Patterson, the caregiver, smiled at Velara. She has come so far. You must be very proud. I am, Velara said, tears in her eyes. Velara's own studies were also progressing well. She excelled in her engineering courses, especially in biotechnical integration. Her instructors were impressed by her unique perspective, combining Velkari biological knowledge with human technical skills. One evening, Tae-sun came home with unusual news. I met someone today, he said as they ate dinner, a social worker from the youth shelter. She mentioned there is a human boy there who needs a foster family. He is 8 years old. His parents died in a transport accident 2 years ago. Velara looked up from her plate. Why are you telling me this? Tae-sun hesitated. I know we are still adjusting to being a family. But I was thinking, we have space. We have love to give. And this boy, Hyunwoo, he needs a family. I wanted to know what you think. Velara was silent for a moment. Another child. A human child. They had only been married for 6 weeks. But then she looked at Lyra, who was listening intently. She thought about how Tae-sun had taken them in when no one else would. She thought about how humans measured family. Can we meet him first? She asked. Of course, Tae-sun said, relief and happiness crossing his face. The next day, they visited the youth shelter. Hyunwoo was a small boy with messy dark hair and cautious eyes. He looked at them suspiciously when the social worker introduced them. Are you really married to an alien? He asked Tae-sun bluntly. I am, Tae-sun replied. Her name is Velara, and this is our daughter Lyra. Hyunwoo looked at Lyra with interest. Your skin is shiny. Your skin is pink, Lyra replied matter-of-factly. They stared at each other for a moment, then both giggled. The social worker suggested they spend some time together in the common room. At first, Hyunwoo was quiet and withdrawn, but Lyra, with the fearless nature of young children, started showing him her toy shuttle. My dad fixed it, she said proudly. He can fix anything. He is not your real dad, Hyunwoo said. You are an alien. He is human. He is my real dad, Lyra insisted. He married my mama. That makes him my dad. Hyunwoo considered this logic. My parents are dead. No one wants to adopt me because I am too old and I get angry sometimes. We want you, Tae-sun said gently. We would like you to come live with us. If you want to, why? Hyunwoo asked suspiciously. What is wrong with you that you want me? Velara understood that question. It was the same one she had asked Tae-sun. Why would anyone choose damaged people? Nothing is wrong with us, Velara said softly. We just believe that family is not about being perfect. It is about caring for each other. Hyunwoo looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, Can I think about it? Of course, Tae-sun replied. Over the next few weeks, they visited Hyunwoo several times. Each visit went a little better. The boy started to relax around them. He and Lyra became friends, though they argued like siblings sometimes. Finally, Hyunwoo agreed to come live with them on a trial basis. The social worker helped with the fostering paperwork. The first night Hyunwoo stayed with them was difficult. The boy was nervous and defensive. At dinner, he barely ate. At bedtime, he refused to change into the pajamas they had bought for him. I do not need new clothes, he said. I have my own. That is okay, Tae-sun said calmly. You can wear whatever makes you comfortable. Later that night, Valara heard crying from the small room they had set up for Hyunwoo. She went to check on him. The boy was curled up on the bed, tears streaming down his face. "I am sorry," he said when he saw her. "I know I should not cry." Valara sat on the edge of the bed. She thought about all the times she had cried herself to sleep, believing she had to be strong. "It is okay to cry," she said gently. "It is okay to miss your parents. It is okay to be scared. You do not have to pretend with us." Hyunwoo looked at her with wide eyes. "You are not going to send me back?" "No," Valara said firmly. "You are home now. We will have good days and bad days. But we are your family now." Hyunwoo started crying harder, and Valara held him until he fell asleep. Over the following months, their family found its rhythm. Lyra and Hyunwoo became inseparable. They played together, fought together, and protected each other. Other children who tried to bully either of them found they came as a pair. One day, some kids at school called Lyra a freak for being alien. Hyunwoo got into a fight defending her. When Valara was called to the school, she expected the worst. But the principal, a kind human woman, was understanding. "Hyunwoo should not have fought," she said, "but I understand why he did. We are going to have a discussion with the other children about respecting differences." On the way home, Valara tried to scold Hyunwoo. "Fighting is not the answer." "But they were being mean to Lyra," Hyunwoo protested. "She is my sister. I have to protect her." Valara felt her heart swell. "She is your sister?" "Of course she is," Hyunwoo said as if it was obvious. "We are family." That evening, Valara told Taesun about the incident. He smiled. "They are good kids," he said. "They understand what family means better than most adults." Life was not perfect. Money was sometimes tight with 4 people to support. The quarters were cramped. Valara still had nightmares about the war. Hyunwoo sometimes had emotional outbursts from his trauma. Lyra still struggled with her arm on difficult days, but they had each other. Valara's studies led to a job offer in the station's biotech division. It was entry-level, but it was a real career position with good pay. She would be working on systems that integrated biological components with technology, exactly what she had trained for. When she told the family, Lyra and Hyunwoo cheered. Taesun kissed her forehead. "I am so proud of you," he said. That night, after the children were asleep, Valara and Taesun sat together on their small couch. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For choosing us. For seeing value where others saw nothing. For showing me what family really means." Taesun took her hand. "You did all the hard work. You survived, you protected your daughter. You had the courage to accept help. That takes real strength." Valara leaned her head on his shoulder. Her markings glowed softly in the dim light. Outside their window, the station hummed with life. Thousands of beings from dozens of species all living together, all finding their way. And in this small set of quarters, one unusual family had found their place in the universe. A human man who believed in fixing what others considered broken. Belkari woman who learned she was never broken at all, and 2 children who discovered that being different was not something to hide, but something to celebrate. Together, they were not perfect. But they were real, and that was enough. 6 months after Hyunwoo joined their family, life had settled into a comfortable routine. Valara was excelling at her new job. The children were thriving in school. Taesun had been promoted to senior engineer. They had even moved to larger quarters with 3 bedrooms. Valara was beginning to believe that happiness could last. Then Kalseth arrived. It was a normal Tuesday morning. Valara was getting ready for work when her comm unit buzzed with an official message. A Velkari diplomatic transport had docked at the station. Among the passengers was Kalseth, her late husband's brother. Valara's blood went cold. She had not thought about her former in-laws in over a year. They had shown no interest in her or Lyra after her husband's death. Why would Kalseth come now? She told Taesun about the message. He saw the fear in her eyes. "Maybe it is nothing," he said, though he did not sound convinced. "Maybe he is here for other reasons." But 2 hours later, Valara received a summons to meet with Kalseth at the Velkari consulate office. She was required to bring Lyra. "I am coming with you," Taesun said immediately. "He might not allow it," Valara warned. "Then he can arrest me for trespassing," Taesun replied firmly. I am not letting you face this alone. They left Hyunwoo with Jiwon and went to the consulate. Lyra held both their hands, sensing her mother's tension. The consulate office was decorated in traditional Velkari style, all smooth surfaces and cool colors. Kalseth waited in a formal meeting room. He was tall for a Velkari, with bright markings that indicated high social status. He wore a military uniform with several medals. His eyes moved over Velera with clear disdain, then to Tysun with confusion, and finally to Lyra with calculation. Velera, he said in their language. It has been some time. Kalseth, she replied also in Velkari. Why are you here? Straight to the point. How human of you. He gestured to chairs. Sit, we have much to discuss. Velara sat, pulling Lyra close. Taesun sat on her other side. Kalseth frowned at him. This is a family matter, Kalseth said in heavily accented standard. You should leave, human. I am her husband, Taesun replied calmly. This is my family matter too. Kalseth's markings flared with surprise and disgust. Husband? You married this human? I did, Velara said, switching to standard so Taesun could understand. It is legal under Terran law. Terran law, Kalseth repeated mockingly. You abandoned our people, our ways for this weak species? They are not weak, Velara said. They are strong in ways you do not understand. Kalseth waved his hand dismissively. We will discuss your poor choices later. I am here about the child. Velara's arms tightened around Lyra. What about her? Recent genetic testing initiatives on the homeworld revealed something interesting, Kalseth said. Your daughter carries a rare mutation, the R7 variant. Do you know what this means? Velara did not. She shook her head. It means that despite her physical damage, her genetic value is extremely high, Kalseth continued. This mutation appears in only 1 in 10 million births. It provides enhanced cognitive processing and extended lifespan. The Science Council has declared all carriers of the R7 variant to be priority assets for the breeding program. No, Velara said immediately. Lyra is a child, not an asset. She is property of our family line, Kalseth corrected. As her late father's brother, I have the right to claim guardianship. I am here to take her home. You are not taking her anywhere, Taesun said, his voice hard. Kalseth looked at him with amusement. You have no say in this, human. Under Velkari law, children belong to the paternal lineage. Her father's family has rights that supersede any claim you might make. We are not under Velkari law, Taesun replied. This is a Terran Confederacy station. Velara has legal custody, and I have adopted Lyra as my daughter. Your adoption is meaningless, Kalseth said. Velkari law does not recognize interspecies adoption. The child will be returned to proper Velkari guardianship. Lyra started crying. Velara held her tightly, her own markings flickering with distress. You never wanted her, Velara said, her voice shaking. When my husband died, your family called her defective. You told me to abandon her. Now that she has value to you, you want to take her? The family was acting on incomplete information, Kalseth said coldly. Now that we know her true worth, we will provide appropriate care. Appropriate care? Velara's voice rose. You will put her in a facility. You will use her like breeding stock. She is 7 years old. She is a genetic asset that belongs to our people, Kalseth insisted. I have filed the proper legal paperwork. A hearing is scheduled for next week. I suggest you prepare to say goodbye. He stood up, clearly considering the meeting over. You will not win this, Taesun said quietly. We will fight you, Kalseth laughed. Fight me with what? Your human sentimentality? The law is clear. The child belongs to her father's family. After they left the consulate, Velara broke down. Taesun held her while Lyra cried against her mother. They stood in the corridor, a small family unit facing an impossible situation. What do we do? Velara asked. He is right. Velkari law is clear. I do not have the legal right to keep her. Then we change which law applies, Taesun said. This is a Terran station. We fight this under human law. They went immediately to see a lawyer. Jiwon had recommended someone, a human woman named Ms. Park, who specialized in interspecies family law. Ms. Park listened to their story with a serious expression. She reviewed the documents Kalseth had filed. This is complex, she said finally. The issue is that the Terran-Velkari peace treaty has provisions for recognizing certain aspects of each other's legal systems. Family law is one of them. So he can take her? Velara asked desperately. Not necessarily, Ms. Park said. There are several arguments we can make. First, Lyra is now a permanent resident of Terran space. Second, you have legal custody and have been her sole guardian for over 2 years. Third, Tayson's adoption, while recent, is legitimate. Fourth, and most importantly, we can argue that Velkari law in this case violates sentient rights as defined by the Confederacy. How do we prove that? Tayson asked. We demonstrate that Lyra is a person with her own rights, not property to be claimed, Ms. Park explained. We show that she is thriving under your care. We argue that treating her as a genetic asset, rather than an individual, violates fundamental rights. The next week was a nightmare. They had to prepare for the hearing while keeping life normal for the children. Hyunwoo knew something was wrong. He tried to be helpful, taking care of Lyra when their parents had meetings with the lawyer. The Velkari community on the station was divided. The older traditional members supported Kalseth's claim. They believed Velara had shamed them by marrying a human and should face consequences. But the younger Velkari, and some who had been quietly watching Velara's life transform, began to speak up. They questioned why a family that had rejected Lyra now wanted her back. They pointed out the hypocrisy of calling her defective, then claiming her as valuable. A few of them, including the young Velkari woman who had come to dinner months ago, offered to testify on Velara's behalf. Human support was overwhelming. Tayson's co-worker started a legal fund. Ji-won organized community members to attend the hearing. Mrs. Patterson from the daycare wrote a letter describing Lyra's progress and well-being. Dr. Kim, the human doctor who had treated Lyra, prepared detailed medical testimony. She documented how Lyra had been denied basic care under Velkari authority, but had thrived with human medical intervention. The hearing took place in the station's legal center. It was a large room filled with people, humans, Velkari, other species, all interested in this case that had captured attention across the station. The judge was a human woman, Judge Chen, known for her fair but strict rulings. Kalseth sat on one side with a Velkari lawyer. He looked confident, his markings bright with arrogance. Velara, Tayson, and Ms. Park sat on the other side. Velara's markings were dim with stress. The proceeding began. Kalseth's lawyer presented their case first. He argued that Velkari family law was clear and should be respected. He claimed that Lyra's genetic value meant she belonged with her people. He suggested that Velara was mentally unstable, evidenced by her illogical marriage to a human. Ms. Park countered each point. She argued that Terran law took precedence on Terran territory. She presented evidence of Lyra's improved health and happiness. She challenged the idea that any child could be property under Confederacy principles. Then came the testimonies. Dr. Kim testified about Lyra's medical condition when she first examined her, and her remarkable recovery with proper care. She emphasized that the Velkari medical system had declared the child beyond help. Yet human medicine had proven otherwise. Mrs. Patterson testified about Lyra's social development, her friendships, her confidence. She compared the frightened, withdrawn child of a year ago to the bright, happy girl now. Several of Tayson's co-workers testified about his character, about the family they had built. Ji-won gave emotional testimony about watching this family form, about the love and dedication she had. Witnessed young Velkari refugees testified about how Velara's example had made them question their own society's values. But the most powerful moment came when Lyra herself was asked to speak. Judge Chen arranged for the child to testify in a private chamber with just a few adults present, to avoid intimidation. The testimony was recorded for the court. Through the recording, everyone Judge Chen took 2 days to reach her decision, 2 days that felt like an eternity to Velara's family. They stayed close together, not wanting to be apart. Lyra slept between her parents every night, afraid of being taken away. Hyunwoo refused to go to school, insisting on staying home to guard his sister. On the 3rd day, they returned to the legal center for the ruling. The room was packed again. Even more people had come this time. Word had spread across the station about the case, and it had touched something deep in the community. Velara held Tayson's hand tightly as they waited for the judge to enter. Her markings were barely visible, dim with stress and fear. Tayson kept his expression calm, but she could feel the tension in his grip. Kalseth sat across the room, confident as ever. He had sent messages to Velara during the waiting period, suggesting she should accept the inevitable. She had blocked his communications. Judge Chen entered, and everyone stood. When she sat, she looked around the room with a serious expression. This case has required me to examine some fundamental questions about rights, family, and the meaning of personhood, she began. I have reviewed all testimony, all evidence, and all legal precedents. Velara stopped breathing. The petitioner, Kalseth, argues that Velkari family law grants him guardianship rights over the minor child, Lyra. He bases this claim on paternal lineage rights and genetic value. He further argues that the Terran-Velkari Treaty requires recognition of these rights. Judge Chen paused, looking directly at Kalseth. However, the petitioner has fundamentally misunderstood both Velkari law and Terran principles. Velkari family law, as presented, does grant certain rights to paternal relatives, but these rights are not absolute. They can be challenged when the child's welfare is at stake. She pulled up documents on the screen. The evidence shows that after the death of Lyra's father, the paternal family refused all contact with the child. Multiple witnesses testified that they referred to her as defective and not worth resources. The mother, Velara, fled Velkari space specifically to protect her daughter from institutional placement that she believed was not in the child's best interest. For over 2 years, the paternal family showed no interest in Lyra's welfare. They made no attempt to visit, support, or claim guardianship. They only filed claim after genetic testing revealed potential value in the child. This is not the action of a family concerned with a child's well-being. This is the action of parties seeking to acquire an asset. Kalseth's markings flared with anger, but he remained silent. Furthermore, Judge Chen continued, the testimony clearly demonstrates that Lyra has thrived under her current guardianship. Her physical health has improved dramatically. Her emotional well-being is excellent. She has formed strong attachments to her family unit, including her mother, stepfather, and adoptive brother. The petitioner argues that treating the child as a person rather than a genetic asset is human sentimentality. I could not disagree more strongly. Recognizing the personhood and rights of all sentient beings is not sentimentality. It is the foundation of Confederacy law. Velara felt tears starting to stream down her face. The petitioner claims that Velkari law should supersede Terran law in this case. But we are not on Velkari territory. We are on a Terran Confederacy station. While we respect our treaty partners, we cannot and will not enforce laws that violate fundamental rights as we understand them. Judge Chen looked directly at Lyra, who sat between her parents. Lyra is not property. She is a person. She has the right to family, to love, to grow up in an environment that nurtures her. She has clearly found that environment with Velara and Tai Sun. Therefore, my ruling is as follows. The petition for guardianship by Kalseth is denied. Full custody remains with Velara. The adoption by Tai Sun is recognized as legally binding. Furthermore, I am issuing a protection order preventing any member of the paternal family from approaching or contacting Lyra without her guardian's explicit permission. Additionally, I am forwarding this case to the Confederacy Legal Committee as an example of why current interspecies family law needs reform. No child should be treated as genetic property. No family should have to fight this hard to stay together. The judge's gavel came down. This court is adjourned. The room erupted. Humans cheered and applauded. Some of the Velkari looked shocked. Others looked thoughtful. A few of the younger ones were crying with happiness. Velara pulled Lyra into her arms, sobbing. Tai-Sun wrapped his arms around both of them. They held each other tightly, a family that no one could separate now. Ji-Wan was crying too, hugging Ms. Park. Hyun-Woo, who had been watching from the public seating, ran down to join his family. He crashed into all of them, his arms barely able to reach around everyone. Kalseth stood abruptly and left the room without a word, his lawyer following. But Velara barely noticed. She was too focused on her family, her real family. Outside the legal center, a crowd had gathered. When they saw Velara and her family emerge, more cheers went up. Strangers congratulated them. Human children waved at Lyra. A few Velkari approached tentatively to express support. One elderly Velkari woman, who had been traditional and disapproving before, stopped in front of Velara. I was wrong, she said simply in their language. Your human showed me that strength comes in many forms. Perhaps we have much to learn from them. She walked away before Velara could respond, but the words meant everything. The following weeks brought unexpected changes. The case had made news across multiple systems. Suddenly, Velara's story was being discussed on human worlds. On Valkyrie worlds everywhere, the Valkyrie government, facing public relations problems with the Terran Confederacy and internal pressure from younger generations, announced a review of their laws regarding genetic fitness and parental rights. Reform movements began organizing, using Velara's case as a rallying point. Some traditional Valkyrie were furious. They said she had betrayed her people, but others, especially the younger generation, began questioning the old ways. If a damaged widow and her defective child could build a happy, successful life with humans, what did that say about Valkyrie values? On the station, the atmosphere shifted. More interspecies friendships formed. More refugees felt comfortable seeking help from human services. The walls between communities began to break down. Velara completed her training and was promoted at her job. She was now working on cutting